Had I just gone like this, that deer would be so dead. Broadside at 20 yards, 160-inch public land deer. How many guys are going to do that? The couple times I had really good opportunities, I let the camera come in the way of what I was passionate about. And what I'm truly at the core passionate about is whitetail hunting. I'd worked so hard to get myself in that position to shoot that deer, and I let the camera cost me that deer. If you watch the Iowa film series, you'll see at the end of the series, the deer I ended up killing, I didn't actually kill it on camera. And by the end of the film, it kind of all comes to a head, and you understand it's not about the camera.
I was like, well, if I throw a mic on, then I can help others the way that these people have all helped me.
Born in the heart of the Pennsylvania deer camp. With the help of experts, friends, and local legends, we bring you valuable knowledge and powerful stories for your hunting adventures. Welcome to the East Meets West Hunt Podcast with your host, Bo Martonic.
All right, we're live. We're back for another episode of the East Meets West Hunt Podcast. And today I have got Joel Burham on the podcast. I guess this isn't your first time, but kind of.
Sort of, yeah, sort of. First time without like the whole hunting cabin involved. So.
Yeah, so Joel with Whitetail Fit is what some of you may know Joel as, but him and I met last year at Nebraska deer camp that the Identical Draw guys put on and brought a bunch of us together, which was
so much
super fun. Early September, super hot. Deer activity, not so hot, but we had a great time in camp.
Yeah. What was it? Nate got an arrow in one kind of there towards the end, but yeah, it was definitely very hot out. Deer activity was slow.
Yeah, it definitely was. But it was, like I said, it was a fun camp to be able to come out there and get to hang out with, getting to meet you and getting to hang out with a bunch of the guys that I've either met through social media or I've known, like the Josh and those guys from the Untamed. I've known them for a while, but it was a lot of fun.
Dude, so much fun. And Josh and those guys, like, what a hoot, man. What a hoot. I think I saw them at was it NWTF? I think they had a booth. I like walked by, I'm like, dude,
yeah.
Like it's just like, instant. Those guys like so down to earth and such like awesome people, It was just like, oh my gosh, just went and give him a big hug, It's like, dude, we got to do another camp. I don't know where, but we got to do another camp.
Yeah, it was that was a ton of fun. But so you were on that podcast with me, but there was a big group, so I never really got to get into a little bit of, who you are and everything. And recently I'd watched a video series that you put out, a film series on your 2025 Iowa whitetail season, and we're going to get to that in a little bit, but I really enjoyed it. It is a three-part series, right?
Yep, 3 parts, yeah.
So, in total, you're looking at like an hour and a half or so, maybe a little bit longer on the film, and I watched every minute of it. I really enjoyed it, and I love storytelling when it comes to those things. I feel like there's a lot of lessons to be learned from that, and for anybody that's listening and or watching, I think it was really cool. But I've also been super interested because I've been following along with you for years prior to getting to meet you there. But how about you give a little bit of a background on who you are and kind of how you grew up in the hunting space?
Yeah. So first of all, thank you for the praises on that film series. I truly, truly appreciate it. It was a lot of fun to put together, as you know, with editing. Like it took a lot of time and a lot of effort to edit those films, and I'm glad that it received the way I had in my head. That people received it the way I had it in my head was definitely that. Like it, like kind of a more of a moving film series that was, not quite as like a bunch of cuts, but more, on the cinematic feel. And really, I wanted to bring the viewer along with me on that hunt. So thank you so much for the praise on that. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I'm Joel Burham. I originally grew up in Nebraska, and I didn't actually have any family who hunted. My dad, so rewind, my dad hunted in college, but it was only upland birds. He never big game hunted, so he did a lot of pheasant hunting and dove and quail and stuff like that. But just never got into big game hunting. And so myself, growing up on a small acreage, we had like 6 acres that my parents had, and we would see deer all the time. We'd see turkeys all the time, but just never. My family had never gone out and hunted, so I started taking a liking to just being outdoors in general, going fishing, just watching wildlife in general. And after watching deer for a while, I was kind of getting more and more interested in whitetail and just like, why, like, we just have these like 200-pound animals that just exist in a tree line somewhere out back, and like nobody talks about this. Like, what are we, it's just crazy. Like in my head as a kid, I'm just like, this is nuts. So I started reading a lot more about it, started watching more videos on it, and that brought me to all of the hunting films and hunting videos that were out at the time, which would have been like VHS series, October Whitetails, the Monster Bucks videos, some of the early Drury Outdoors stuff. And I just became like obsessed with it. I was super, super interested. And some of the early videos, watch it, like David Blanton hunting with a bow. I remember specifically there's a video of, this is kind of what like originally ticked my head off to, or my mind to Iowa whitetail, was there was a deer that Bill Jordan killed in Iowa on a Monster Bucks video. And it was just like the pristine rut setting, like perfect, canopy of trees and stuff. And he's just like, this deer comes in, he smokes it. And I was just like, I want to do that. I want to do that with the whitetail out back here. Like, I'm watching these deer. I know we have deer here, and I just want to get into hunting. So I talked to my parents about buying a bow, and my parents were like, or I wanted to have a bow for Christmas. If there's any way we could get, Christmas present. My parents were like, well, we'll buy half of it for Christmas if you buy the other half. I think it was almost a test of like, is he actually serious about this, or are we going to buy him a bow and then he's just not going to do anything with it,
Yeah.
And so it was like a little bit of an investment on my part to buy the other half of the bow. I'm like, yeah, 100%, let's do it. And I bought an Alpine Micro, which was like just I don't think Alpine's even around anymore, but it was a youth compound bow that was, maxed out 40 pounds, 45 pounds. And just started learning. I didn't know anything. I didn't know anybody who hunted. So I just started learning, shooting. We got a little bag target at Walmart, but just shooting full length Walmart arrows, full length, Allen broadheads, which were like,
oh yeah,
dude, $9 for a pack of 3, and the blades were like rattling in it when they were tightened, and fingers on a compound, no peep sight. I was just like ripping. I didn't know what I was doing, so it was just, but I was like arrow trajectory towards the target, and that's about as much as I knew. And went through hunter education. Sorry, what's that?
I want to stop you real quick. So I hadn't heard anybody else say that about the Alpine bow. That was my first bow too. Mine wasn't the youth one. It was the adult version, but I couldn't pull it back. It was my dad's old bow. So he ended up calling the company and getting 45-pound limbs for it, I believe.
Nice.
And getting those put on there, and that's what I killed my first buck with a bow, was that Alpine. So that was pretty cool to hear that.
So fun. Yeah. Yeah, mine was the Alpine Micro. So it was, like I say, maxed out. It was 40, 45 pounds. It was a youth bow for sure. But so got into shooting, got into just like, running around and flinging arrows at stuff in the backyard, and then went through hunter education. And about that time I was turning, so I would have been going into the next season. I was 13 years old when I started bow hunting, and sat behind our lake. Well, like I say, we had 6 acres at the time. We had a little pond on it. Sat behind the pond for like, at that time in Nebraska, season was opening, I believe, September 15th. And I killed my first deer like mid-October. And dude, I'm talking, I sat every day back there. I had a lawn chair set up. No clue what I was doing in any way, shape, or form. Lawn chair set up on like a mound where the lake had been dredged like back in the 80s or 90s, and they just piled a bunch of the dirt up on the bank. And it was like growing up with some weeds, and I sat a lawn chair on that thing, and I just sat every evening, every morning I could before school, just like, literally just sitting waiting for a deer where I didn't even know where a deer was coming from,
Yeah.
I was sitting, like I told you, there was a tree line out back where like I could watch deer and see deer. I was just sitting off that tree line. It was like I saw a deer here at one point in my life. So like now I sit here and that's where I'm going to hunt. And anyway, this doe comes in. I was shooting okay, but not great. Like I could hit the block target at 20 yards, you know what I mean? But I wasn't proficient in anything. Like I say, full length Walmart arrows, no peep sight, fingers on a compound, Allen broadhead, yeet it. And this doe came through. She was like 28 yards, and I absolutely pumped her, double lunged her. And it was just like, from then on, I was completely hooked. There was no going back for me. I was just like, heels dug in the ground on whitetail hunting. So from then, obviously, it's just compounded to what it is now. And now I'm blessed to work in the industry doing what I do for a living, which is my brand Whitetail Fit. And I work with a lot of companies, on the marketing side and photo and video assets, just helping them out where I can. Testing, I do a lot of testing, research and development and stuff for new products with companies. And luckily, I've been able to work with like who I want to work with. Like Hoyt, I've shot my next bow after the Alpine Micro was a Hoyt. So it's
nice.
I've been able to work with Hoyt for a long time. I know you're working with Hoyt, just amazing people. And so yeah, fast forward, I've been doing Whitetail Fit for 10 years now. June of this year was my 10-year mark, and I've been doing it full time since 2021. So yeah, it's been a long ride and a long journey, and blessed all the way.
So overnight success then, 10 years.
Yep. Immediately, boom, right away, overnight.
No, dude, that's awesome. It was the year after you is when I went full time with the podcast and everything in 2022, and I remember seeing guys like yourself and others that made that jump, and it was just it's pretty cool, and we're definitely blessed to be able to do that. So the Whitetail Fit brand and like the idea for everything, where did that come from? Like what is Whitetail Fit?
Yeah, so it's funny because when I initially started Whitetail Fit, and I'm still like super passionate on both ends, but I loved whitetail hunting. That was like my number one. And I loved fitness. That was my number two. Like I was super passionate about whitetail, super passionate about fitness. And I didn't know, like, social media was just becoming like a big thing in 2016. It really wasn't, Instagram and stuff like that. It really wasn't like widely, in my opinion, it wasn't what it is today by any means. Like it's massive now. And in 2016, I was just kind of like, well, I know I want to do something with hunting. And like I previous to that, I had another page called Corn Fed Bow Hunter. That was my Instagram handle.
Nice.
And with Corn Fed Bow Hunter, I had already started kind of getting into filming my hunts, taking photos. Like I was taking pictures of my bow sitting in my truck, and just stuff that I thought was cool. I was posting on social media. And then you start interacting with some of the other people on social media, which for me, I'm good buddies with Eric Chesser of Get Hushin'. And Eric at that time they were starting their Hushin' channel, and they were pretty much already, Casey had a big following prior to that, and they were kind of off the ground going. And it was all social media and YouTube. And it was like, these guys look like they know what they're doing. They're having a blast doing it. And so I just reached out to Eric through the Corn Fed Bow Hunter page originally and just talked to him. It was like, he replied, and I was like, oh man, that's kind of cool. Started talking to him. And so we just got to be like pen pals over Instagram. Right. And eventually I was already kind of thinking, I want to start something in this industry. And what am I passionate about? I know I'm passionate about whitetail hunting. I know I'm passionate about fitness. And I was following a lot of fitness influence and a lot of hunting influence, both sides. And so I'm just like, I'm going to call it Whitetail Fit. And it was like, that was kind of what just stuck. It wasn't necessarily that you have to be like high level fitness in order to whitetail hunt. Does it help? Absolutely. I mean, just as well as I do,
Yep.
like some of this hang and hunt stuff that we do, hiking into public land, like if nothing else, the fitness aspect gets our butt out of bed and like gives us good joints to do what we want to do and gives us good recovery for the next day. And we're not laid up on the couch hurting, licking our wounds from what happened, in the woods before. So it doesn't help to be, or I'm sorry, it helps to be in shape, but that wasn't the whole premise of Whitetail Fit was like, you got to be in shape to whitetail hunt. It was like, I enjoy whitetail hunting. I enjoy fitness. I'm passionate about both. And that's kind of how the name started.
It's
So
a
anyway,
great
but I
name
have
though,
found it
because
does
like
help.
but like the name is great too from it's something you remember. Like
Yeah.
before I even knew you, like I remember seeing Whitetail Fit and then I'd see Whitetail Fit again. It was just something that stuck as far as being able to remember it. But in that same respect, like I'm a strong proponent of believing that fitness definitely does not hurt at all. It helps
Yeah, no, 100%.
for even when it comes to whitetail hunting. I mean, I think the modern day whitetail hunter, and I shouldn't even say modern day, it's been going on for a lot longer, people mobile hunting and moving and doing things. It's not always, driving your ATV, walking 100 yards, climbing into a blind. Nothing wrong with it, but that's not how I believe the majority of hunters hunt when it comes to whitetails. And I've always put it as the fitness side of it. If nothing else, even if you don't have this like grueling 2,000-foot climb and all this stuff to your, where you're going to hunt at, what it does is it teaches you the discipline to be able to get up every morning at, whatever time it is to get out there and give you that discipline to sit it out and go through those things and have you in that giving you that mental clarity and that confidence to be able to do so.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And like I say, it's for me, it has helped me throughout the years. Absolutely. I travel all across the country and do a lot of public land hunting. And, some of the spot I killed my deer in Kansas 3 miles deep on Kansas public. And, that was on the end of a 10-day hunt. And I'd tried just about everything else that wasn't 3 miles deep. And it just so happened that the best spot that nobody else was willing to go to was that 3 mile deep pocket. It was a big ridge system and a lot of fingers coming out from a river. And it's like, that's where they were. It just was what it was. And that morning or that evening when I was talking to my brother about it, he was helping me film that hunt. It's like, we very easily, after a 10-day hunt, getting beat up the whole time, we had some really close calls. We found some really big deer, made some awesome stalks, just didn't happen to work out. We could have said on that last day, let's just sleep in for the morning hunt, pack our stuff and kind of take it easy today. And we didn't. We buckled down and we packed everything out that evening. And then the next morning we hiked in with our backpacks loaded and ended up killing them off the ground 3 miles deep. So scenarios like that, the fitness aspect absolutely played a fact. That deer wouldn't have gotten killed had we not made the decision to make that hike. And and we had to pack it out. You're not dragging a deer 3 miles out, So same thing, just like a Western big game animal, we corded it up and threw it on our backs and packed it out. And so in that aspect, absolutely fitness helps. But if I'm going to go to Texas and we're going to hunt, over a feeder and we've got a ground blind sitting there and I'm getting dropped off 100 yards away with a truck. Dude, my muscles ain't going to do nothing for me there. I'm going to have a dang good time. We're going to eat steak when we get back, maybe a little ice cream, some peach cobbler. Like, I'm all for it too. There's different aspects to every hunting camp and I love all of it,
Oh, that's a really great way of putting it. The one of the other things with when it comes to the fitness aspect of it, and you kind of alluded to it, but making that decision to go somewhere, even if you don't recognize it subconsciously, your ability to do something is going to impact your decision. Same as when it comes to access. There's spots. There was a spot that I was hunting. I was actually just working on an edit for a video I have coming out, like breaking down this hunt from a few years ago. And I was talking about where to access this spot I was hunting, if you came in from the top of the ridge and walked out, it wasn't very hard. You could walk a logging road. You could be there in 400 or 500 yards, not that pretty flat across the top. Sure. But to not spook the deer, and you had to come from the very bottom and go all the way up straight up the ridge, and then climb up on the edge of the hill there. And I watched it once hunting pressure started picking up, people coming, as soon as they started coming through that cut, it was like, it was done. Like the deer activity was down to zero. It was like the deer were living there, and I didn't want to walk through that as I was coming in. And if, from that, to me, that's an easy decision, and that's not sitting there saying that I'm in the best shape out of anybody out there. I'm not, but I feel confident in my ability to climb hills and to be able to walk it. So it's like, okay, this is what I need to do, and I don't second guess it because like, oh, well, I'm going to be drenched in sweat by the time I get up there, or whatever it might be, know.
Yeah, no, it definitely plays a factor, and for the public land stuff, I mean, you're just going to figure that out. Like it's if you do it enough, it's kind of like with elk hunting. Elk hunting's a great equalizer. When you go out there, you either the first year you go elk hunting, if you're doing like a backpacking, public land, whatever it might be, if you're so long, even if you're in a cabin jumping in a side by side, I don't care what you're doing. Elk hunting's hard. The mountains are tough. It's a hard hunt. So if you show up to a trailhead and you hike in and get your tail absolutely whipped and come home and say, yeah, I want to do that again, you're probably built for it. Like that's what you're passionate about and what you want to do. But physically, elk hunting will absolutely sit you down on your butt and tell you what's what. So it's kind of that same thing with how far you want to go and how far you want to push it with whitetail hunting. Yeah, you can walk right across that ridge, but those same guys were blowing all those deer out, and it probably didn't have a great hunt that day. Whereas if you loop around the backside of it, go straight up that vertical, you might have had a better chance to kill the deer you're after. So it's just, there's different ways of hunting and any game animal, and the fitness side, it lends itself, it helps itself in every aspect, in my opinion. But again, when it goes back to like the Whitetail Fit name, I wasn't trying to call out people who weren't fit. I was just saying I love whitetail hunting and I love fitness, and that's kind of where I landed.
No, I know what you're doing, Joel. You were ahead of the curve with everybody trying to trigger everyone in content.
The original trigger.
You're the original trigger. No, all joking aside, I feel like you're very similar to myself. Like I'm not in the game to I don't, as far as that attention triggering style of things, I'm just not built for it.
Me either.
I admire those that can. It's just not. I can't. I just can't do it.
Yep. I'm in the same exact boat. So,
yeah, man. Well, that's pretty cool to hear about kind of a little bit of that, the background side of it, and then as you started going through, and your content has kind of a mix of things from my perspective, and I want you to kind of correct me on it or add to it, but everything from filming hunts and documenting that journey, like that film series from last year, to archery shooting to gear to building the room that you're in right now. Like you kind of have a mixture of things overall lifestyle when it comes to, a bow hunter. And would you say that's correct, or do you have anything to add to that?
No, absolutely, dude. I've got videos on my channel of like early on. I was just like, I want to put out what I do. Like this is how I live. This is what I do. This is what I'm passionate about. And that was literally like, dude, I put out a full how to. So I'll get into this a little bit, like what I did previous to this, but I put out a full how to replace rocker panels, cab corners on my 2001 Ford F-250 that was all rusted out. I mean, literally, I made like a 3 or 4 part series, step by step, how to cut the rusted panels out, how to weld new panels in, Bondo, everything painted. Like I was making videos like that early on just because I
see that.
Yeah, so it's just like stuff like that, all the way to I did like a John boat build series because I wanted to build a John boat for bow hunting. And it's like, why not film this and put it out there? That's kind of, it's just like, I'm always doing something, so I might as well film it. And if somebody gets something out of it, then sweet, So definitely how you explain that is absolutely, it's kind of my personality trait anyway, to be all over the place. So I'm like, that's kind of how I am with my filming style. But I'm very compartmentalized when it comes to, if I'm doing like if you hop on and watch a video, it's probably not going to be all over the place. That video is going to be very specific to, like, if I'm building a bow, the video is going to be step by step, how I'm tying my D loops, my knock sets, how I'm tuning the bow, start to finish. It's going to be on that bow. And then with my hunt series, like my film series, I might have hunts I used to do back in the day. Really, my first like heavy push in terms of viewership was a series I called the Rutcation series. And it's when I was working construction full time, and I only had 2 weeks vacation, and only like 5 days of that was paid that I saved from the year prior. All the rest of it was my boss just let me have the time off as long as I gave him, enough time in advance. And I'd always take that Rutcation during that peak, late October into that first and second week of November. And I would film that Rutcation series, and I jumped around state to state. I hunted mainly Nebraska, Missouri, and it was just like over-the-counter tags, running around bow hunting whitetails. And that was very much like a pretty straight cut edit, straight to the point type of hunt and filming style. Kind of like the hunting public style almost, where it's not necessarily the most cinematic thing in the world, but you're going to feel like you're there with me and you're one of the boys and hanging out and just fun, And then I started getting more into cameras and equipment and like understanding how to run all of the equipment. And then it's like I adopted this style that I really, really resonated with, which was the film series style. And like the Iowa film series was that way. My Kansas hunt 2 years ago, my Missouri hunt from a couple of years ago, I started putting together more like cinematic style videos for the hunts. And I just really like that edit style. It's something that I'm super proud of when it's finished. And when it's like, I put it out there and I get calls from people, and my buddy's watching it with his kids. They've got the surround sound on and everybody's got popcorn. It's like, that's what I'm really, really passionate about on the hunting side now, is like putting out films that really resonate with me. It's something I want to watch. Like I want to sit down and watch a hunting film, and I think guys like Seek One and Chris B and those guys really kind of pioneered and paved the way for that like truly high end cinematic stuff. And I just love that stuff. And so yeah, I've got a mix of everything: gear reviews, total archery challenge. So yeah, it's definitely a mixed bag with my content.
Yeah, no, that's super cool. I hadn't seen the trucks up before. I have your YouTube on my other screen
Old
pulled up,
school.
and I was looking at it. Yeah, yeah, it looks like it did well as far as engagement on that
Yeah.
too, as far as people following along and checking it out. But
Who knew so many people had old rusted out Fords that needed rocker panels?
Oh, I hear ya. I had replaced my rocker panels twice on my old Jeep Cherokee that I had, and I was like, I'm gonna do whatever I can to never again have to do that.
Yeah. I did. So
I
I
hate
used to
body
be
work.
into the Jeep world pretty heavy. I had a 98 Jeep Grand Cherokee, and it was the 5.9 liter, so it was like
Ooh,
it
yeah,
was the niner, right?
yeah.
And I had that thing built out. It was on 37s and bead locks and like 8-inch long arm and locked axles. And so same thing, like I cut all the rocker panels out and I welded in like 2x8 by 1/8 inch, I think it was, steel tubing. So like I could take it off roading and rock crawling and stuff and just slam that unibody down on a rock and it was
Yeah.
fine. Keep going. That was the ultimate hunting rig. Like I should have never sold that thing because like if I trailered that up to the mountains with what I do now, that would have been like the hunting rig, but it was like I needed a truck for all of these long distance hunts and I needed to sell something and sadly it was my Jeep.
Honestly, an SUV of sorts, whether it's a Jeep, a 4Runner, like those types of vehicles, those smaller bodied just do better when it comes to the mountain versus a long big truck as far
Yeah.
as like as far as getting over things. They definitely operated better. Like mine was a 2000 Jeep Cherokee Sport that I had lifted and did some stuff to it, and it was just like that thing went anywhere I pointed.
Yeah.
Anywhere I pointed it, and I did find some limits to it too. That's for
Yeah.
sure. But
As long as you got a winch, there is no limit.
yeah, that's
or
that's
something to hook the winch to. I should also preface that.
yeah, that's exactly right. A winch or come along or something, and points to be able to attach to. At least for me, like with it being on the East Coast, we had trees everywhere, so you're pretty much okay. Being in like the open country or somewhere out west, that could become a problem.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, dude, I was into all that stuff early on, and I don't have as much time now to do like the hobby thing with vehicles as much as I used to. I'll still mess around like with my truck, just with organization and whatnot, and like how I'm going to load things, but not so much as I used to really be into just vehicles in general. And that hobby's kind of, maybe it'll start back up eventually, but time wise, I don't have a lot of time to put towards it anymore. And, so prior to Whitetail Fit, I worked construction full time. So, with that, we got access to like our shop, like the where we would send material out from and everything. And in that shop, we had like a 2-post lift and tire balancer and all that stuff, so we could work on all the vehicles. And every now and then, if I wasn't out, I normally was pouring concrete. That was kind of my thing. When I wasn't pouring concrete, we were slow, and I was working in the shop, I'd be working on vehicles. So that was kind of like where I came from prior to Whitetail Fit. Was I was a concrete foreman and then like a side mechanic on the side when we were slow. So,
I gotcha. When I was 16, I worked in a auto garage, and I remember doing that. And the guy that owned the place, he was a good mentor for me, but he got very angry a lot, and and I would screw things up, and I remember him just like throwing wrenches at me and being like, "You're never gonna make it as a mechanic," and I'm like, "I hope I don't." Like
I never said I wanted to.
Yeah,
That was never on the table for me.
I'm 16. I'm trying to afford parts for my Jeep so I can lift it up and be cool. Like that's what I was trying to do. But all joking aside, as far as when it comes to, you just mentioned something that I think is kind of funny, because I didn't expect myself to be saying the same thing, but I am, as far as being so busy. From the outside, people look at someone like yourself or someone like me and be like, oh, you get to hunt for a living. But that is not really the case behind it. So like what are some of the things that you're doing? You mentioned it a little bit earlier, but like what are some of the things that you're doing to actually make this happen?
Yeah. So, so mentioning earlier, I work with companies within the industry who it's important to note that I believe in. That's first and foremost, is I believe in the companies that I work with, and I have a lot of very long-standing relationships with these companies, all the way back from 2016, 2017. Some of them that I've worked with. Like I've been with Realtree since 2017. I've been with Hoyt since 2017, 18. It's just, and I love these companies. I grew up watching Realtree Monster Bucks, right? So now that it's like Tyler Jordan's a close buddy of mine now, and like having met Bill and David Blanton and those guys, it's just like full circle for me. So it's very easy for me to want to work with these companies because I'm passionate about the companies in the first place. Um, and with that, I do a lot of work on the back end that never even necessarily sees like social media. There's photos and videos and just marketing campaign stuff that I help out with some of these companies, that it might go in a Dropbox that the company might use later on for marketing material, but it's still things that I'm shooting day in and day out, either in the studio, out in the field, talking about a certain piece of gear. I also do like a lot of testing with gear, and if there's revisions and changes that a company inside their design team wants, hey, what do you think about this? How would you change this? How would you work on this? Or what would you change with this? I do a lot of that type of stuff and give feedback. So I'm hopping on meetings all the time and sitting in sometimes 2-3 hour long meetings talking about what I would change on a backpack to make it slightly better for this, so things like that is just kind of like a daily. I've typically got a meeting of some sort scheduled throughout the week, every other day probably, that I'm actually sitting and having fairly long conversations with companies. So you're mitigating all that, and then what comes out of the meetings is, hey, can we get this done? We need to have something out by this time. Start working on that stuff. I will start working on that stuff. Along with that, keeping my own social media and my own YouTube rolling. Not only does like you have to have content in order to edit content. So in order to go get that content, you fly out to a total archery challenge and shoot total archery challenge. Is it super fun? Absolutely. We're having a blast the whole time. We're like, again, super blessed to do what we do for a living. With that, there's cameras with us the whole time. I'm filming the whole time. I'm taking photos the whole time. We're setting up different, if we're at the practice range and doing novelty shoots, like at this last total archery challenge in South Dakota, like 3 or 4 of my buddies, we get together and it's like everybody put their releases in a hat. And then it's like we all draw out of the hat, and whatever release you pull, now you got to shoot an 80-yard mule deer target with that release. It's not your release, it's someone else's release, but it's like, who can put the best arrow on it? Coming up with video ideas, literally, I mean, I've got notes in my phone of video ideas that I want to do. And sometimes when I feel stuck and I've got like that brain fog of like, it's like creator burnout. It's like a lot of YouTubers will talk about it, but it's where it's almost like you're doing so much, you're overloaded with like the thoughts of what you want to do, and it's hard to put it into movement sometimes. So I'll keep a note on my phone of video ideas that I want to do throughout the week or throughout this month, and try to execute those as best I can, And so doing that type of stuff while the trips to, like, you're going and having fun at Total Archery Challenge, but it's also a content gathering trip. When you get home from that, actually, when you get back to the hotel or the cabin or campsite, wherever you're staying, there's instantly 3, 4, 5, 6 SD cards sitting on my table that are going straight into the computer and getting categorized and foldered and sent out to the people that need content. If it's like I'm working with, say, Swacker, or Vortex or whoever I'm working with needs some assets from that shoot, I'm going to quick edit some photos and maybe a couple of small reels or whatever that night or the next night at Total Archery Challenge and send those off to the Dropbox. And now that company has that content quickly. Like it's that Total Archery Challenge event is happening right now. So it's in their best interest to post that content now. So you're shuffling content off to them that you created that day or the day before. And then when you get home, you start editing the full length videos for the Total Archery Challenge. And I'm just using Total Archery Challenge as an example.
Yep.
It's with every trip that I do. Any trip that I do, even here in Iowa, if I go scouting, I might bring my camera along and do some how-to videos with setting up a trail camera, how to make a scrape, a mock scrape, whatever. And I'm just constantly doing things like that throughout the entire day, throughout the entire year. And that was a good Trump move right there. Good hand movement. So there's always something going on that you're working towards and building and creating and editing. And definitely with my most time consuming thing that I do is editing my YouTube videos. That's probably the most time consuming just because I want it a certain way, and I never see, when we just hopped on this podcast, like I moved the lighting around a little bit. I messed with the decibel meter on my microphone. I'm trying to get my camera set up right. It's just things that like little things that you don't think of, but that makes a cool film and makes it look cool afterward. And is something I'm happy with and proud of. And then when it comes to the hunts, again, super blessed to do the hunts. Love every single one of them. Like I'm never not grateful to be on a hunt anywhere. I love hunting. It's what I'm passionate about. However, I was talking to my wife about this. I haven't gone on a hunt where I haven't brought a camera of some sort, whether it's a DJI, a GoPro, even filming with my cell phone, taking photos with my cell phone, in like 10 years. I mean, I haven't done like a hunt for myself where I didn't care about gathering content in any way, shape, or form. I'm probably missing something, maybe 1 or 2 times in the last 10 years where I haven't had a camera with. So when you think about it that way, it gives you a little bit of insight and a little bit of perspective into how much work behind the scenes of the hunting that goes into the hunting. And it makes it a lot tougher to kill deer when you're self-filming and trying to get a deer on film as well. And I think that Iowa film series gave like a good perspective of that. I passed like, I don't know what he was, 160, 10 point. I mean, just an absolute toad on public ground. Dude, I had him dead to rights, 3 or 4 different shooting windows, came through at 20 yards. I mean, right underneath my stand. If I wasn't trying to do this with the camera and get him and focused and then, okay, ISO's where it needs to be. Okay, we're good. Had I just gone like this, that deer would be so dead. Like broadside at 20 yards, 160-inch public land deer. How many guys are going to do that? And it's like, in that moment, again, if anyone wondering, if you watch the Iowa film series, you'll see at the end of the series, the deer I ended up killing, I didn't actually kill it on camera. It was like a culmination of all throughout the season. I hunted for over a month of straight every single day trying to chase these deer. And the couple times I had really good opportunities, I let the camera come in the way of what I was passionate about. And what I'm truly at the core passionate about is whitetail hunting and bow hunting. And I'd worked so hard to get myself in that position to shoot that deer, and I let the camera cost me that deer. And by the end of the film, it kind of all comes to a head, and you understand it's like, it's not about the camera. It's not about getting it on film. It's about enjoying what God has given us in the woods and enjoying just being there. But I still use the camera to bring everybody along on that journey. So I can't throw the camera out. You can't throw what is it, the baby out with the bathwater or whatever. You can't totally get rid of it because it's like, it cost me a deer. Yeah, it cost me a deer, but you notice I still finished filming that series. Like I still brought it all together because there's still a story to tell there, whether the arrow entering the animal is on film or not, you know? And I just wanted that to be kind of a big part of that film was like, it's okay that the kill shot's not on camera. In fact, back in the day, like the early days of television, you'd notice they'd line up to take the shot, and then it would cut to them taking the shot, and then it would cut back to the deer like just falling over. They wouldn't show the shot on film, not on television. That's how it used to be. It didn't used to be arrow impact, bullet impact. It used to literally, like, they could go out technically they could go out and shoot a deer and completely recreate that whole episode after the deer was already killed if they wanted to. So,
and they might have done that then.
And they might have, I know a lot of things, they probably did do that in a lot of times,
Yeah.
you know. But it's just the amount of, I can't remember we're talking about like what the work side of it is, but the amount of work that goes into the decision to bring a camera to the woods is astronomical. And if you're going to stick with it and actually, again, whether the kill shot is on film or not, just filming and putting together a good video that makes sense that people can resonate with is like really hard. And that's just that's what you and I do day in and day out. Even in the off season, we're filming a podcast right now. And prior to this podcast, I made sure that my microphone and my camera was working, and cleaned up the studio, made sure everything was looking good, got the lighting right. And it's like, what the viewer at home sees is we're sitting here talking and having a cool conversation, which obviously we are. Love this. I love doing podcasts. I love this stuff. I love Bo Martonic. But it's like in order to get our studio to look this way and have good lighting and have a good visual and good audio, it takes time and it takes work to get it that way. So, and with social media, you have to keep up with social media if you don't want to disappear. There's young bucks just grinding on TikTok and grinding on YouTube and Reels and stuff like that. And it's really easy to like get complacent in social media and just get kind of buried in the algorithm. And social media is not everything, but if you want to do it for a business and you want to do this full time and work in the outdoor industry as a content creator, you need to create content and you need to be putting it out regularly. But you also need to be passionate about that content, because if you're not, what are you doing it for? And it's kind of one of those catch-22 deals. But thankfully, I'm passionate about content. I'm passionate about making content. I'm passionate about whitetail hunting. I'm passionate about archery, bow hunting, fitness. Dude, this is my wheelhouse. I love this stuff, you know?
Dude, you said a bunch of things I kind of want to come back to here as I bring it up. But what you just said there at the end about the passion for it, and the passion, if you don't have, number one, first and foremost, the passion for hunting to a level, and this is like when you are, by doing this, you've created the opportunity to hunt more than the average person would. But to do that successfully and go and do that, it can be difficult, and it feels weird saying that because I know a ton of people die for that opportunity, but you're hunting a lot, which is a lot of early mornings going through it. Once you start doing something for a long time, it can start to wear down on you and go through that. So you got to love it. You got to love that process. You got to love the ups and downs that come through it. But I think to truly be successful at it, you got to like the business side of it too, or at least be able to, be okay with that front of it. Like I've come to like the business side of it, and
same.
The creating content and planning and doing that. And that wasn't what I expected from myself personally. It was like, I wanted to figure out how to not just use my 2 weeks of vacation that I had at work to be able to go hunting. But I've come to like that aspect of it. But the other thing you said earlier, I think from now seeing it on where with Timber Ninja and I help on the marketing front there, I'm hiring content creators, I'm doing these things. The number one thing I see is that everyone's always like, what can you do for me? But not what can they do to help the company, which is the whole point in doing. And what you said a couple of things there without even saying it, but the fact of like turning around, getting that content to them quickly when they need it, just like being willing to bend and do things for companies, that right there is like what 99% of people don't do when it comes to doing that. Someone could be super talented either with a camera or a hunter, but if you're not combining all of them, it's very difficult to do these types of things. And it's totally fine if that's not your case. Like the case for it, if you just really loved, if hunting was like, okay, hunting is your 100% passion, but you hate the business side of it or the filming of content. And I've noticed this from anybody that I've talked to that's doing well or, and or making it in this space is like figuring out how to help your customer, or which is a lot of times these companies when it comes to partnerships or content creation or whatever it is, and that's why you have those relationships for as long as you've had them. Now, there's always situations that can come up with partners as far as they're just not doing well from a market perspective. There's a lot of other reasons, but if you can control everything to where they, in their own mind, they don't want to have to get rid of you for any reason other than something that they have to, then that puts yourself in a much better spot.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, you want to be able to, like I've always said, going above and beyond on your contracts. A lot of times contracts will have like, most of the time there'll be like a set deliverable, and whatever that set deliverable is, my intention is to blow that out of the water so that next time when we come to the table talking about a contract or whatever, just like you said, you want that company to not want to lose you. Like you're the last one that they want to lose. So that's kind of, if you look at it that way and you have the business mindset and the work ethic to actually do that, then you put yourself in a pretty good place within the industry and creating quality content that people want to listen to or watch or keep up with in the first place,
Yeah, that's I wholeheartedly agree with that. And the thing about the deliverable standpoint, it's I wasn't always this way, but at the beginning, I'd agree to whatever someone had said, and that helped prove it. But now, like, I'm more stringent on the actual contract up front because that, with the intention to over deliver from the, like, I don't want to, I never want to over promise and under deliver. So like, if something seems like it's out of reach for the price that's there, I'm going to say that up front versus just agreeing to it and then not hitting it because it's I feel like it's not worth it to do that. And I think that can go a long ways with working with people. And you had mentioned about the filming aspect. Are you doing all self filming?
So, the last couple of years, so a little bit of both, but not last year was pretty much all self-film. The years prior, 2023 and 2024, I had my brother Ethan helping me film a lot of the whitetail hunts. I believe one of the elk hunts, like he came along with me on the road quite a bit and helped take photos and video and film and stuff. And at the time, Ethan was just starting to get into that more heavily. He's always been interested in photo and video. He just never had like his own camera set up and really understood all of the different aspects that go to running a full-fledged mirrorless camera. When he got into it, he started learning very, very quickly and started getting very good quickly. And he had expressed wanting to work in the hunting industry with photo and video. And he'd asked me several times prior, even before he had his own stuff, was um, to come and help with photo and video on my hunts. And so it kind of worked out to where at that point, even just a couple of years ago, financially, I was not in a place to be able to like hire true full-time photo and video for every hunt that I did. Cause I mean, um, like a company like Sitka or a company like, Stone Glacier or something. I'm just throwing out companies. If they're wanting to do like a full-fledged full film on, say, a high country mule deer hunt with said personality, if they want the true high-end photo level of photo and video edited, finished out the door, like on their hard drive, that is a lot of money. I don't know if anybody watching from the outside knows that, but that's a lot of money. Like photo and video guys, when they're at the top tier and the helm of things, can make a pretty decent living doing what they do. However, that's like 1% of those guys. Because it takes kind of very similar to what you and I do in terms of having a business head on their shoulders. They got to be able to pitch what they're worth in the contracts for that photo and video asset. They've got to be able to put out and produce a high-end product that the company is going to be happy with, that they're not going to come back with a bunch of revisions and be like, man, this was trash. We need to fix this. We need to do that, whatever. Out the gate, the company's going to be pleased with it. And that just takes reps, and that takes building your confidence behind the camera. That takes building your confidence in editing. And when Ethan had talked about wanting to help with photo and video and stuff, I was kind of already in my mind, I'm like, well, I'm starting to go into this like more of the film aspect stuff where I really like the high end content. But I have nobody to help with the third person angles and everything like that. So it was like, this is actually going to work out really well if he can come and do this stuff. And I just want my brother to come on the hunts anyway. Like it was just super fun to have him, so it all kind of worked out to where it kind of, the agreement kind of between Ethan and I was just, I'm going to be able to help you build a portfolio with the content you're going to capture with these hunts and the photos and videos and stuff. I can help align you with people that I know within the industry to maybe help you get into the next photo and video job. And I can pay you what I can pay you. At that time, I just wasn't in a position to pay like a true, like I say, that high end price. And Ethan was still learning at the time. So it kind of all worked out. Everything worked out to where he's building a portfolio. He's making a little bit of money. I'm I'd take care of meals and lodging, whatever, if we're traveling and going somewhere like that. But then he's getting reps. He's getting that experience behind the camera and watching things through the lens of a viewfinder and being like, okay, I need to be over the shoulder on this shot, or this is a cool setup and layout. And Ethan naturally took to that stuff. So he was really good at it really quick. And, literally like the second season, I'd kind of talk to him at the second season. I'm like, dude, you're worth way more than I can pay you. And like, as a brother, I don't want to just like keep you, like, you can come on however many hunts you want. You can film and do whatever you want for me if that's what you want to do. However, your skill set at this point is he could film for Sitka tomorrow and put a freaking awesome film together. Like,
Yeah.
you're at that level to where you need to start seeking contracts that can pay you 20 grand. I can't pay you 20 grand on this hunt. It's kind of one of those things where I knew Ethan was at the next level of that step. And it's just like, see what you can do, reach out to some people. And dude, he's like, he's pretty much, I've got him for Kansas and I might have him for an elk hunt. Otherwise he's completely booked this fall. Like coming this fall, he's booked.
Dang, that's awesome.
Yeah. So, just a super cool thing to see happen was just like Ethan not that long ago getting into this space, doing photo and video for me, and very quickly building like a pretty good reputation for himself, reaching out to companies on his own and getting like these really cool contracts together. He's already filmed like a desert bighorn sheep hunt. He's gonna go film Chad Mendez, my buddy Chad Mendez in Alaska. They're gonna do, I think it's Doll sheep they're gonna do out there. He filmed last year for the Lindsay Way pretty much all the way through November. So I mean, what you're seeing produced on the Outdoor Channel for the Lindsay Way from the rut last year and from Cactus Jack, the Texas hunt, was all mainly Ethan's footage. And then I can't remember his name, but the kid that films with them as well. So there's a couple of them filming out there, but just really cool to see just like the progression of that. And Ethan learning all the business aspect along with it. It's very similar to what we do in terms of like knowing your worth, going into a contract with like, I know what this is worth. I know what you would have to pay if you had to pay somebody else at a professional level. Where do I sit in that tier? And then what kind of jobs can I get a hold of doing this? Because you also, when you're building and growing, you also want to prove yourself in terms of like you're reliable, you're somebody that's easy to work with, you're gonna get along with everybody, and nobody wants that like grumpy dude in deer camp that nobody can get along with. It goes the same for a cameraman. Like if you're really hard to get along with, there's not going to be a lot of people wanting you to film for them.
Oh,
Kind of how it is.
1,000,000%. Because I mean, they are, people that are filming with you on a hunt they're pretty much your hunting partner. They are.
Yeah.
Like they're
Oh,
an extension of it. They're involved with it. At least like how I've done it with, a lot of times we're bouncing ideas off of each other.
Yeah.
Like they're a part of the hunt and a part of it. So having good people and good personalities will go a long ways. There's like, I found a few that I really like to work with, and it's like and some have outgrown me, and it's similar to what you did with your brother. I had told them, I was like, listen, don't feel bad because you are doing well. Like,
Yeah.
you need to cover your own bills. You need to do your thing first. Like, I'll find somebody to be able to help out. Of course I want you along, but they've treated me great, so I want to do the same back. It's just like I'm not at a point and where I can, afford to have, very high production film quality on every hunt.
Yeah.
And it's similar to you, so I totally understand that, and those costs definitely add up quickly. You do a much better job at the self filming than I do, that's for sure. And but you've also worked at it where there's parts of me that refuse to work at. I've gotten better, but it's I'm not good either. I struggle with it, so it's one of those. It's that balancing act, but when it comes to it,
I think with like self filming, it's actually kind of interesting. The more, again, I'm like, anything I put my mind towards and like put my hands on, if I'm passionate about it, I want to learn everything about it. I want to get as deep as I can on it. And it's like, dude, I find myself like on Amazon, like ordering small rig. Oh, I'm going to get a small rig suction cup, and then I'm going to get a magic arm, and I'm going to do this. I'll get this shot out of the car. Literally for like one shot in my head, I've already dumped like $180 on Amazon, and there's packages showing up at my door, and my wife's like, "What is this?" I'm like, "It's for a shot, babe." It's just like, but it puts me in a position where I'm really, really happy with the end product and the film and the like, literally I critique myself, like that Iowa film series. I was critiquing myself that I didn't have enough like B-roll shot footage of me driving the truck, getting ready at the truck, cool cinematic window down shots. So I ordered a suction cup system to rig up my Sony A7S III on the outside of my truck. If that camera falls off my truck, I'm out. Dude, I'm out like $8,000 on the body and lens. But it's stuff like that that's like gonna make a cool video. And I'm like, let's buy the best suction cups I can, And it's just, you get so far down that rabbit hole, but that's why I enjoy it. I enjoy every aspect of that, you know? And hopefully it turns out to make a good video in the end. But it just is like, I just become so obsessive about stuff once I'm passionate about it. It's just like
Well,
game.
it's like, so like I went through like these ebbs and flows. When I first started self-filming, it was like, the camcorder, and I think I had an old GoPro that I use. And then I went to my Sony A7 III, and then I was realizing I couldn't figure out how to focus and do all that stuff while I was with it. So I simplified it, went to an iPhone, did that, and actually went through it. And then it was like, okay, now I wanted the quality up again. So then I went back to the A7 III. But then on this recent hunt, I was in Hawaii, and I was like, I really wanted to film it, but like run and gun, like I was like, okay, I know myself, I'm not gonna be able to do this well with the Sony. I was like, so what is just gonna get me to film it? Might not be the quality that I'm looking for from a video standpoint, but I will capture those moments in more of a vlog style. So I was like, iPhone and my DJI Action 4. It was like, let me just, and I did it. Like I filmed
Dude, it makes
everything
great
on
stuff.
those two things. And so it's kind of depending on the
On the
purpose,
iPhone,
and
actually looks pretty good these days.
they do, yeah, they do. And like, if anybody was, so a question I have for you is, when it comes to whitetail hunting, say you're going in, like you're going to go in, you're going to hunt out of a saddle, you're going to go through that. What are you taking with you camera wise, and how are you setting it up to make it to where it's efficient and the easiest on you, but also getting good quality product?
Sweet. Okay, let's get into the gear side. I love this.
Yeah.
So from one, I'm going to decide whether I'm hunting off depending on where I'm at. If it's public ground, if I'm hunting off the ground, or if I'm going to be hunting out of a saddle or the tree stand. So that's kind of going to be a little bit different in terms of how I'm loading my backpack down. But um, if I know, let's just say saddle hunt. I'm going to run in. I'm going to do a saddle hunt. I'm going to bring my camera arm, which I run a 4th Arrow stiff arm. It's actually one of the first models that they came out with. It's kind of bit, dude, not compared to like the old Muddy arms. Do you remember the Muddy arms like way back?
Oh
Dude,
yeah.
were like, thankfully I never owned one. I'd ran one a couple times, and like those Muddy arms are just super hard to level, super big, heavy, clunky. Um, but 4th Arrow started coming out with like the ball head design that works really well. And I got one of the first like early on stiff arm ball head designs, and I'm glad I kept it. I haven't tried like the new um ball head designs. I've heard from a couple people that they're a little bit bouncy on the ball head, and it's like it can be, or not bouncy, but like if you have too much weight on it, if it's rigged out too much, it can be kind of hard to like keep level.
Yep.
Um, just because it's a smaller design, it's a lighter weight design. I'm sure their heavy duty stuff is still great. But that early on model was like heavy duty. All they built was heavy duty. So it was I still have that early model, and I still use it to this day because it like works great. I can level it out and put like a ton of weight out on the end of it, and the claws won't try to come away from the tree or anything. So I run the 4th Arrow stiff arm, and then the fluid head, I run a fluid head on the stiff arm that is a Manfrotto, I believe, fluid head. And it works great, dude. It's like, you wouldn't think about, like, you think you've got it on the arm, you move it around, that's all you need. But when you've got a fluid head that has like rebound within the fluid head, that's got either a spring system or um some type of bearing system that is really fluent, that's how you can get those like perfect cinematic panning shots from a camera arm in a tree stand. If you have just like an Amazon special fluid head on the camera arm, you'll never get that fluid panning shot because it'll just jerk. It'll be too
Mhm.
jerky for it. So thinking about that ahead of time, you know, what's the shot you're looking for? Or is it easier to run a lighter weight setup with just a smaller camera? Or if you're filming and you want that cinematic stuff, I'm setting up my A7S III with a lens and everything, I'm gonna want like a heavier camera arm. So that's the camera arm that I take. Um, Once I get to the tree, I hang my I'm in the saddle, hanging out. I will, like, in the dark of the morning, it's you pretty much have to use a headlamp of some kind in order to, like, if I don't have to use a headlamp, I won't use a headlamp, but most of the time if you're setting up a camera arm, you've gotta use something, so I'll just use red light, like really low red light once I'm in the tree, and, I'll set usually if I'm in my saddle and the tree is this way and I know I'm going to be shooting to my left, I'll usually set my camera arm and base on my left-hand side. That way, if I know the deer is going to be coming through a trail on my left-hand side, I don't have to pass the camera through between the tree and the saddle in order to get that shot. So I'll set it up on the left side and I'll swing the arms out to the front of the tree, and then I'll have like all the room to move on my left side. Kind of hard because if you're right-handed dominant, it makes it easier to have the camera on the right-hand side, which I am. But if you're going to shoot, if you think you have your 80% chance at a shot window is on the left-hand side, I would rather have the camera already on the left-hand side and just slightly turn my body in the saddle in order to get that uh, fluid working motion.
Yep.
The second you try to, that's exactly what happened on that deer in Iowa. I thought I was going to be shooting on this far side, so I kind of had the tree set up in a weird way that it kind of cost me on that deer. But I kept having to pass that camera between my saddle and the tree, and when you've got a microphone set up and everything on the camera, it's like, some of those saddle setups, you don't have a lot of room between your bridge and the tree. And passing it back through and trying to get it turned around, now the deer's on this side and passing it back through, it was just tough. So I want to set myself up in a position where I have the best chance to get everything I need to get on film easily. Then for my camera rig setup, my actual main camera is going to be the Sony A7S III. And I'm filming everything with that camera in the highest bit rate that I can, the highest dynamic range that I can. Typically, if I'm doing an interview, like I'm filming back to my face and doing an interview, I'll film in 4K 24 frames per second. It's just really fluid and it looks really good from a cinematic aspect, especially if you have your lens stopped down to like a f2.8. You have just like this awesome looking interview style shot. The interview lens that I typically will run on that camera is the Sony G Master Mark II, and it's the 16 to 35 millimeter lens. Great wide angle lens out of the tree for interviews style shots. Also for photos like recovery photos, product shot photos in the tree stand, like panning photos of an arrow or the bow, or panning your feet on the platform of a stand or whatever. That 16 to 35 is like dialed, dude. It's like a great lens for that. Great field of view. So that's going to be kind of that lens. And then once I film my interview in the tree, which that's basically the second I have light to film an interview, I will film an interview. Like if I'm having, as long as I'm not punching out my ISO too much, that's where I really, really like that A7S III is the sensor on that A7S III in low light. It's like incredible. And I can film an interview with maybe like a really crisp, really good looking interview with maybe 5 minutes of light in the morning. And, filming on Canon prior with a higher megapixel sensor, I was like pushing it to film a really good interview within the first 10 minutes of light, which you need to be ready to go the first 10 minutes of light. Like,
Yeah.
you need to be ready to film what you're filming. So I'll film an interview with that. The second I'm done with an interview, I will swap the lenses over, and in my backpack, I'll have another lens. A lot of times guys will do like an all-purpose lens, like a 24 to 70, or they make like I think it's the 24 to 240.
Yep, that's what I have on this camera right now. Yep.
Okay, perfect. Great lens, like great all around lens that's going to cover a lot of bases. However, the f-stop, like you can't get the 24 to 240 in an f2.8.
No.
And to get that like truly cinematic bokeh feel where like it's everything behind you is real smooth and creamy, but like your face is in perfect crisp view. You just can't get that with like a 4.5 stop or a 6.3 or so on. However, when you're filming like a deer walking through, it's kind of in your best interest to get the focus that you want to bump it up to 4.5, 5, 6, whatever, in order to get everybody's field of view, like the whole deer in view. Because, dude, literally like f2. So, sorry, I'm sidetracked. The lens that I will snap onto my camera it's a Tamron 35 to 150 f2 to 2.8. So it's a it at f2. I mean, racked all the way in at 35 millimeters. It's f2. I want to say it starts jumping f-stop at like 50 millimeters or something like that. But you can at 100 at 135 millimeter, it's still filming at f2.8. So it's a good variable zoom lens. And 35, I can still extend it out on the tree arm and get a great interview out of 35 millimeters. It's not too close, right? I can still get a good interview out of that. So that becomes like throughout the day interview. My morning interview is typically filmed on the 16 to 35, but throughout the hunt, that 35 to 150 just lives on the camera. And again, it's all about the f-stop. It's because with that cinematic feel that I'm going for, I really, really, really like those f2.8s and lowers. And
just to stop you real quick, for anybody that's listening, what he's discussing is that depth of field. So like if you see like even on my video right now how the background's blurred and then like I'm in focus, that's the type of look you get with a lower backstop. Now mine, it's at 4, so it's not great. It's just I'm sitting far enough away from the wall that it kind of gives me that automatically with it. But having and it also, the lower f-stop allows for more light to come in as well,
right? Which in a hunting scenario, lower f-stop is going to be your friend all the time. Like no matter what, lower f-stop is always going to be your friend. A lot of times, middle of the day or what sun's punching through at 7:30 in the morning, you don't need f2.8. But at low light, your last 10 minutes of shooting light, f2.8 comes out and shines really well. So those are the two main lenses that I'm going to run with the Sony A7S III. And then my microphone setup, I will be running the DJI Mic 3, which is actually what I'm recording this on. But what I like about the DJIs is the case that it comes in. It's got the receiver and 2 transmitters in the case, and the case is like a charger. So the second you put it back in there, it charges the mics, and also the mics last for a very long time. I can get through an entire day. I mean, entire day, morning and evening hunt, and probably the next morning with one charge on the microphones. And so I don't really have to run into like recharging. I just plug it in when I get home from the hunt. And depending on if I want like really good audio of something walking through the woods, I'll run a little bit different setup, like a shotgun mic setup. But then if I'm wanting like really crisp talking to the camera interview style, then I'll run a DJI lav mic. Then let's see, the third angles that I'm going to be running is I'll have two different angles out of the tree. One angle is going to be on just like a clip mount or a magic arm mount, which is like I don't have one in here, but you loosen the clamp, and then you've got this like swivel ball mount that you can kind of put in any position. You tighten it down and it's good. And is public land compliant with everything that I do because it's got a clamp. You don't have to screw anything into a tree. And it'll literally, I can clamp, like if there's bark on the side of a tree, I could clamp it to the bark. I mean, it's like pretty small.
Yeah.
But if I don't have anything to clamp it to, I've got like a gear hanger that I go around the tree and I cinch it down. I believe it's like the tether, is it this SYS strap or something like that?
I think
Got a bunch of
his
loops.
strap, the HYS.
HYS. Yeah.
Yep.
It's got a bunch of loops in it and then gear hangers that you can hang off that. I'll put like the clip between one of those loops and the tree and then tighten it down on that, and it's solid. It won't go anywhere. And I'll use that as like a third person angle filming back to me in the tree. So if I have something coming, I go to full draw, it's got me on wide angle. And then I also set up that DJI gets set up with it's got a different lens. You can change the lenses out on those DJIs, like just the not the actual lens, but the filters that go on the lens. So I put like standard is a 155 degree lens on these DJIs, and I bought you can get them off Amazon. They're actually really high quality. You can unscrew that glass and you can screw on 180 degree. So 180 degree field of view in a tree stand. Like 155 is wide, right? 180 is like you can see side to side from where that camera's pointed. It's not a full 360 view camera, but you're getting the quality of the DJI in 180 degree field of view. So so that mount that's pointed back towards me, I put a 180 degree lens on it, and that just lives on the DJI. That one stays on it. And then my secondary DJI, I've got another DJI Action 4 that I don't know if you noticed at deer camp in Nebraska, like my bino harness setup on the shoulder strap of my bino harness setup, I've got a DJI Action 4 clipped. It's not a clip, it is a clip. It's a hat clip that I've like custom rigged to my shoulder straps on the harness. That this camera right here literally does absolutely nothing until I'm about to shoot a deer. Like I don't see anything on that camera, but I've got it positioned. I aim that camera like before season starts. I'll aim that camera just out on the range, shooting a target at 30 yards. I'll pull my bow back and I'll draw and I'll shoot and aim at that camera, and I make sure that the lens on that DJI is right down my arm, and it's like putting my target in the center of the field of view of that camera. Once I get that set up, that gets locked in place, and like I tape it all down with athletic tape and stuff, and it never moves. It just lives on my bino harness all the time. I've got a quick release connection that I can take it on and off. Had I been thinking on that Iowa deer, I had that on camera, right? Like I just didn't have it on my main camera, right? But the deer I ended up shooting later on in the season, that little quick detach that I had on that, it's because like hauling with a backpack, it's not super comfortable to like throw it on with a backpack. Backpack straps kind of go across it. So I had it disconnected and in my backpack. And literally all that happened so fast that like I didn't have time to get in my backpack, grab the camera and connect it. So I ended up shooting the deer off film, which again, blessing in disguise, because it made me realize like more about myself with hunting and what was important. But and both of those, the DJIs, I typically will run, if I can, I'll run them at 120 frames per second. As light fades, I have to manually change my frame rate. Like 15 minutes before last light, I've got to bump it all the way down to 24 frames per second, just to get enough light to look good. So those are kind of the camera setups and the camera rigs. On the main Sony A7S III, my interviews are going to be 4K 24. My panning and regular shots will be either 4K 24 or 4K 60. And then if I have enough light, which the A7S III, typically you're going to have enough light with that thing. Any and all deer footage, walking through the woods, kill shot, anything, that's all going to be 4K 120. And
then you can do slow-mo.
Yeah, so then I can do slow-mo. So, and whether that's the nice thing, the A7S III, it records 4K 120, but also still records the audio track, where some of the Canon cameras I was running prior, now that R5 Mark II and maybe the R6 doesn't now, but like the original R5 didn't record audio with the 4K 120. So you'd have to, like, if you ran a slow-mo clip, you'd have to like overlay audio or have music track playing or something. It just kind of was like wonky. So that's kind of the camera setup and the rigs that I run in the tree. But I mean, that's just for photo and video. We could also go into what I actually use for hunting.
Yeah, that's well, so just real quick on that. So I had a couple questions. With your main camera that you have on the camera arm, what height are you putting your camera arm at? Like, is it like hip height? Are you making it higher so you can turn it around and do video, but then you lose some of your shots on the opposite side? Like, how do you do that?
Yep, it kind of depends on the tree, and it also depends on how much. It depends on the tree, also depends on what I'm hunting out of. If I'm hunting out of a saddle or if I'm hunting out of a tree stand, my heights are going to be a little bit different.
Yeah.
Out of a saddle, if I have my bridge at just an average height, say I've got my tether at eye level or chin level, somewhere around there, I've extended out, I've got enough room to pass through, I'm going to be putting the base, which it's also with that old base, you kind of almost have to have two hands to hang the dang thing. So I like swing down and I'll put my hip up against the base on the tree and then run my strap around it and connect it and everything. And that's basically where the base lives, is about hip height or just below, like somewhere within my thigh. But then the actual arm itself sits on top of that base, so you get a little height on that. And then I'm about, like, when I'm in my saddle, I'm passing through about probably belly button or so with my actual camera arm. So, and another reason is it's going to be cumbersome, but I'm actually looking at getting into running a monitor this year as well on my camera rig, just so I can see the viewfinder, like all of the view, because love Sony to death. I absolutely love those cameras. The A7S III, as far as the backlit LCD display, dude, there's a lot to be I don't know what that, I forget what that saying is, but there's a lot that could be done there. And it's not great. And in low light situations, bright daylight, honestly, all situations, I pretty much hate my LCD screen on my A7S III. It's too small. It's you have sunlight hitting it. It's not great. Daylight. It's just
trying to make sure things are in focus on that is really difficult.
Aperture, seeing where you're at with all of your settings and stuff, because I run everything in manual. Not, the only thing I might run in auto is like if I'm after daylight, and I know that the camera's not automatically going to jump past like 2000 ISO, I run my ISO in the mornings on manual, and I run my ISO in the evenings on manual. But once I hit a point about whatever time, 7:30 in the morning, depending on time of season, when I hit enough light, then I'll bump my camera over to auto ISO. And that typically is smarter and faster than I can run ISO in the heat of the moment. And that's the whole thing, is if you have a big deer come running in, the last thing you want to do is try to get your ISO levels where they need to be. You can, and you can mess with aperture and get your aperture where you want, your focus, everything. And that's pretty much like, you're guaranteed to have good lighting as long as your ISO has room to breathe, if that makes sense. Another thing, frame rates. So like when I'm shooting in 24 frames per second, I'll double my frame rate. So like my actual shutter speed is going to be at 24. I'm going to run a 48 shutter speed. At 60, I'm going to run a 120 shutter speed, and then 120, I'm going to run a 240 shutter speed. And those just stay locked in on the settings. I don't move those around unless I'm trying to get like a cool, like if a deer's coming through and I want to get that like choppy aspect to that deer walking through, then I'll bump my shutter speed down. But for the most part, I don't ever mess with shutter speed when I'm in the tree.
Yeah, no, that's it, yeah, my rule of thumb, what I was told was always just doubling it.
Yeah.
Like on my A7 III, you can't technically go to 48. Now on my the FX30s that I use for the podcasting setups, those I can go to 48, but 50 is pretty close. So it's like that works when I'm running 24 frames on my A7 III. But
The photo
you
and video
know,
guys are gonna love this part of the podcast, and everyone else are gonna be like, they just talked about nothing for.
well, I know, but these are, I mean, these are questions that like even me hearing that, and I get questions on this stuff as far as like the filming aspect, and I'm like, I'm not the guy to ask. So
Right.
like it's, and this is helping me too of like learning of how you're doing it and how, because like the thing is like being efficient with it and doing it. And you're talking like this is, so for everyone listening, you don't have to make it as
Oh,
complicated or as, this is talking about doing high production film quality that Joel is doing with it. You can do it with an iPhone and, and a
100%.
DJI and stuff if you want, but even like how you're setting it up and where you're putting your camera arm and where you're putting those second angles, like that stuff is where like that'll be something like I feel like I'm super dialed on my gear, but I never think about the filming aspect until I'm filming. And then I'm like, wait, okay, where do I clamp this to? How's this going to work? And I start finding these flaws. And now I've put more emphasis to try to prepare on that. And like, even like you talking about that one on your bino harness, I forgot about that. I have my DJI here for anybody that's watching, but I had ran in Hawaii on my head, which it worked, but it sucks having this
Yeah, oh yeah.
weighted ball on top
Yeah.
of your head that's flopping. And I feel like it sticks out more if you're trying to stalk or you're trying to do anything. I mean, like I said, it works, but it's
Ideal.
definitely not the ideal situation for me at all.
Yeah. Yeah, and I kinda that shoulder mount, I just came up with out of trial and error, going through exactly what you're saying of I shot a mule deer with that GoPro on my head, and
hmm
it was like, in the heat of the moment, I was so just stressed out about everything. I almost forgot to start it. I didn't know if it was pointing it just so happened it was in the right direction and I did start it. But afterward I'm like, did I even start that? I don't even know, you know. But
Yeah.
having it on the shoulder, you kind of have to like you have to unclip it when you're hiking around. You gotta just position your shoulder strap on your backpack a little differently. Um, but you have to, like, make a conscious effort to, like, click it. It's almost like it's almost like shooting a hinge. You've got the click in the hinge, and it's like, my shot is gonna start. It's like you have to click that thing onto the mount, and I'm like, you feel it on your shoulder, you see it out of the peripheral of your vision. It's like, I know it's there. I'm going to turn that thing on in the heat of the moment. You know what I mean? And
Yep.
it gets a sick shot angle. Like it's down the pipe. Your bow is on the right-hand side of the screen and the deer is right in the middle of the screen. It just makes it's just cool. You know, it's a
Yeah.
great shot angle. So but you have to like consciously um want to run a setup like that, which a lot of people aren't gonna want to have that live on their bino harness all year.
Yeah, I definitely admire it, and I'm gonna look at maybe the thing. I don't wear a vinyl harness as much anymore in a tree. I
Mhm.
do early season, and then as I start layering up and I have other stuff on, I don't like the bulk of it. So then typically I'm just running my binos on like
Yeah.
a Rick Young harness or something that's super thin and easy there. But I like that angle of being able to have it. Now I've also seen like the Untamed guys. One thing they do is they'll run their DJI on their actual camera, like where like a shotgun mic would go,
Yep.
or up on there, so they have a wider field. So if they were too tight or missed something, that other camera's getting it. I
Yeah.
mean, I was on a hunt a few years ago with Josh when he killed a big buck spot and stock, and the guy who was filming it actually forgot to hit record on the main camera, but luckily that DJI caught it and the buck was close enough that you could see everything, so it was pretty cool. But um now I know we've been going for a while here, Joel, but I would, if you do have a little bit more time, I would like to
Oh
talk
yeah, dude.
some more specifics
Oh,
on the deer hunting here when it comes to your season last year in Iowa. So I think there's a lot for people to pull from it. But okay, so let's start with, what was your goal going into last year? You had just moved to Iowa, just, got your residency. What were your goals going into the year?
yeah. So the way my mind works and my head works, I've done public land forever. Like that's definitely something I'm comfortable doing in any state that I go to, because it's just what I've done for a long time. I've had the blessing to hunt some really cool private land. Don't get me wrong. I've been on some awesome hunts, but my bread and butter is public. Um, Coming into Iowa, so got married, moved here in the spring and got my residency and everything and started scouting. I had already scouted a few times the previous winter, like postseason, the previous winter. I'd kind of walked around and just, I had a couple trips up here. I was doing things anyway. So it's like, oh, I stop for a day or two and go walk around some public. Figured out some areas that I was like really excited about. Found some massive rubs. I mean, just like size of your leg type rubs on public that I'm like, okay, there's big deer here. I hear about it all the time. People killing big deer on public in Iowa, right? So my mentality coming into Iowa, I had, so I came in with the mentality of I am only going to hunt public land this year in Iowa because I want to learn public land here. I want to know what my home state has to offer for public land whitetail hunting. Not that I couldn't have gone and knocked on doors, not that I couldn't have maybe found a lease or something. I, g- I got invited to hunt a farm that was phenomenal, dude. Like public or private land farm that was phenomenal. I probably first or second day out, I probably would have killed a giant. Like it super good farm. And I'm probably stupid for doing it, but just like I set out to hunt public ground and only public ground. And so I didn't end up hunting that farm. I literally just went public the whole way. And it was to prove to myself what could be done on public, because the way my mindset is, if I moved here and I instantly went to private land, knocking on doors, got permission on great stuff and started killing big deer, the second I had a slow day on private ground, I will instantly go to thinking, oh, I bet that big chunk of public's got a giant on it. I bet if I hike back into that spot, like, I never really checked that spot out. I wish I would have. I would be sitting there in the stand on private ground having a slow day, only thinking about what could have happened if had I gone to public today. So that's kind of how my mind works, and I wanted to prove to myself, for better or worse, what a full season on public land in Iowa could entail.
Yep.
And I'm really, really glad I did that, because I learned so much about public ground here and the dynamic of how it works, hunting pressure, the type of deer that live on it, the type of deer that live on private just off of it, but come back over to it. The rut, dude, I was, I had such a blast. Like, I had such a blast hunting public ground here. And, so for no other reason other than I wanted to just see, what does Iowa public land have to offer. So whether I do that this year, I'm still kind of torn. I kind of want to do some door knocking this year, just to like have, again, with the photo and the video and the filming and all that, it's like pulling up to certain parking lots, getting ready at the truck, you end up talking to people, and it's kind of like um I don't really have anywhere right now where I can just roll up and it like not run into anybody. And I kind of like miss that a little bit from the private land side of things. So I might be doing some door knocking this year. I don't know. But I know of some great spots on public that I know is like a back pocket deal,
Yeah.
you know. And I might, who knows, I might end up hunting public again, like the whole year. Just the way I am, I'll probably end up being on public a lot. But I like the freedom, dude. I like pulling up and being like, I got 4,000 acres to deal with here, versus going to maybe I got a door knock permission for 20 or 40 acres. You can kind of just do what you want to do on public.
Dude, cause like growing up, like that's what we hunted was public, and that's still the majority of what I hunt now, but I've had the opportunity to hunt some private, whether it be through leases, like I got a lease in West Virginia, or like permission pieces, or even getting sent somewhere to be able to go to it. I still just like hunting public because of the freedom that comes with it. I'm not against any of it. Like I want to have great opportunities. Have a great hunt across the board, but I just like not having to worry as much. Now I know some public can be smaller and you still got to worry about property lines and stuff, but I like expansive piece of public that you can just go and like, okay, the deer aren't here. Well, he's probably somewhere here. I just got to figure out where they're at and being able to go. The hard part is if you're filming, doing things along, those lines, then there's this fine line, and you're trying to make sure that you're, first and foremost protecting that spot and not showcasing too much. And typically the only people that are recognizing things, even when you're being careful, is people that hunt those same areas. But then that creates more pressure for yourself when it comes down to it. It's the filming part of it makes it really really tough. When it comes to the public side of it. But
yeah, and there's like, I don't want to blow up the spot for myself as well. I'm hunting there. I'm currently hunting there. So if anyone's going to be ultra careful about it, it's probably me, because I know I'm the one going to blow it up if I'm showing too much. Like, I'll never show a road sign. I'll never show, like, even me driving down a gravel road, if there's something going by in the window that's like recognizable, like that's not going to go in a video. And it's out of respect for the people who hunt that area as well, because those guys are putting in their hard, boots to the ground and hunting hard for that. And it's also for me, I don't want to see the spot get blown up either. It's not that I don't want everybody else to come and hunt and have a great time, but I'm not trying to drop a pin for everybody on the internet to know where I'm at. So I am fairly like secretive when I talk about things with people, like as to where I'm going, sometimes even the state, sometimes like even just the region of the state. I'm like, yeah, I'm there somewhere, it's just kind of one of those things. But, and also, one thing that's more recognizable than anything is a big deer. So, this last year in Iowa, believe it or not, even with how many big deer I saw and filmed, I can think of 2 for sure. It might have even been 3, but I know for sure there were 2 deer that I got into that I was actively hunting, that I had encounters with in person, filmed them, absolute slobs, total public land giants that never made that film and will never see the internet unless I kill them or I know they died. Literally, dude, one of them's like 190-inch deer, and I almost killed him at 40 yards, and I got footage like walking up the ridge. Never made the video, but the deer's too recognizable.
Yep,
and I know he made it through season.
I'm the exact same way. Like typically, like if you see stuff in my content now, if it's either trail cam or video, and that deer is already, the deer's already dead.
Yeah,
by either myself or somebody else. I am not putting that out, but especially there's certain deer that just like they look okay. It might be a bigger deer, but it can be confused. Like, okay, a typical 10 point that's just like, or an 8 point. It's like, okay, that could be confused for a lot of them, but it's like all of a sudden they got flyers or stickers or whatever it might be. It's like, okay, that's when things start to get recognize, even now it's funny. I'll put like, in some of my scouting videos I'm doing now, and I even put it on their sample maps. I never use maps. Now I even find private land that have to look like the areas that I'm doing it, which is super hard. It takes me a lot of time to find those because I was using just random pieces of public, but then I was highlighting other people's spots. And it was said in the video, this is just me using it as an example, but I don't. So there's a lot that goes into it, but I'll put like trail camera B-roll and stuff in there that's from situations like that, or it might even be those spots, but it's from years ago. And then people will be like, "Oh, I got that buck on camera. Now I know where." It's like, no, that deer's dead. Like,
No,
yeah,
that's not even
it's kind of funny, but it is. But back to the hunting portion of it. What were some of the challenges that you ran into of doing that, of outside of the camera side of it, like from the hunting perspective? What were some challenges you came across trying to find a giant on public land?
Yeah, so pressure was definitely one. There was more pressure than I thought there would be in a state that regulates non-residents so heavily in terms of tag allocations. There was a lot of pressure. Comparatively to like the state I came from, Nebraska, yeah, probably less pressure than Nebraska because Nebraska's over the counter, couple of tags and all that. But there was more pressure than I was expecting for Iowa public.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, I didn't run into anybody that I was like that I had any problems or quarrels with or anything. Everyone seemed to be like pretty good hunters for the most part. Like everybody I ran into, I was like, you can just tell like some of the gear they're running, the way they're talking about because every time I'd run into anybody at a parking lot, I would like, hey, I'm planning on going here. I don't want to screw you up at all. Like, you don't have to tell me where you're going. Just tell me if where I'm going is going to screw you up. And
Mm-hmm.
I show them on the map and stuff. Every single time they'd be super cool about, no, I'm headed over here. You're good over there. But like coordinating with hunters was like a big deal at the parking lot if we ran into each other. And everybody seemed to be like pretty decent hunters. So they weren't really like pushing deer around a whole lot during archery season. They were kind of just getting to their spots, getting set up, which was good. But for actually finding a true giant, it was just a lot of scouting, a lot of summer glassing. I would like even right now, I haven't done enough of it this year, but last year I was out almost every night driving the roads with the truck and a spotting scope, and I'm dropping pins on where these deer are. And even if they're not on the public, if it's in close proximity to the public and they're just coming out to feed on that crop ground, I know at some point that deer's probably going to end up on public, especially in the rut. Like
Mm-hmm.
the rut corridors were all on the public. It's all the timber on the public. So I'd be checking all that stuff and marking it all out. And I found a couple of really big deer doing that. So your preseason scouting really sets yourself up pretty nice if it's a big enough piece of public. But if they're not living on it and running through it and using it, summer scouting can be like hit and miss, whether it's actually like the most effective thing for the fall and for the hunts.
Mm-hmm.
However, this was a big enough piece of ground. I knew at some point that deer was going to be in there somewhere. And so anyway, finding a big deer is just it's the numbers game of finding a lot of deer, and one of them is going to end up being big. I bounced around to so much public ground. Being a resident of the state, you can kind of just go find whatever you need to find. And the harder you work, the more you're going to find big deer. And I found 2 deer. Both of them didn't make the video that were giants. And I focused really heavily on trying to kill those deer. Never did kill either of them. But I learned a lot by hunting them that taught me a lot about how they used the public ground. One of them I think he lived off of the public and would transition onto public for certain things. And the other one, he lived solely on public, but he was just in an area that he had all of the advantage. Anybody coming in from the parking lot, that deer knew exactly what you were doing. Like he was nowhere. It was almost unhuntable. Like the deer was just super smart. So I found a lot of deer that were like 120 to 140 3.5 year olds. I found a ton of those type of deer. I mean a pile of those type of deer. 4.5 year olds, they were a lot harder to come by, and they were more like just not working in daylight much. That like public land in daylight, very hard to get a deer 4.5 years old or older to move on their feet. You got to be all up in their bedroom, just hanging out with them. And the old deer were like very, very, very hard to hunt on public. That one really big deer, that 190 that I almost shot, that was an all day sit. And the only reason I had an opportunity at that deer was it was a north to south wind switch. And that deer, anytime he would show up, was a north to south wind switch on the switch. Like when that wind was switching, he would get up and he'd move beds and he would use a certain ridge to do so. And I had to get in there super early in the morning when the wind was in the, if I remember right, it was a south to north switch. So like a cold front was coming, and I had to get in there super early, get set up on the south wind. And like right when it was starting to switch, he showed up at like 10:30 in the morning when the thermals were pretty much at the top of the mountain. Started to switch, and it was like, there he is. I mean, literally, it was just a weird, like everything got calm, and then he just showed up. And
Dang.
so there's little things like that like, just strategy, hunting these deer. But as far as finding big deer, there was really only, I found quite a few big deer. But I don't know that I had any like necessarily any problems finding big deer. It was just an immense amount of work to find them, and I was
Yeah.
willing to do that. The biggest hurdle I was up against was sleep and being a good husband, and having enough time to spend with friends and family. That was my biggest hurdle.
Did you accomplish that?
Uh probably not as good as I should have.
A C. You got a C on it. Huh?
Yeah, C minus probably.
But
But the nice thing is, this is my job. This is literally the height of like, I'm the lineman on the road right now. I've got to spend a month in Texas at the oil field. Whatever it is, this is the height of my season. This is my NFL season right now,
Yeah, I agree with that. Other than the fact that you're not getting paid like an NFL player.
The compensation could be a little better, but compensated in getting to hunt that much.
I know.
I would pay a lot of money to do that too. So
I'm in the same boat, man. The thing about we said about like the really big deer in my short time, like obviously I was in Iowa, I had 2 scouting trips, but as far as hunting, it was 5 days, 6 days, whatever it was. And what I noticed was when I would find like that really absolute mega sign, there were a lot of people that were there, and like the non-residents that are coming to Iowa have waited years to be able to hunt, so they're pretty serious about that time when they're there. They're hard hunting. They're doing their thing to get after it, and it that was definitely something that was eye-opening to me. And then I ended up finding a spot that was just like, now there was other people parking that I ended up coming to learn. I was the first one there every morning and the last one out when I'd take my boat in. But when I had shot my deer and came out, I noticed there was a couple other trucks, that were parked around me there. But I'd kind of found a spot where, and for like, I think when it comes down to like goals and what you're looking at from an experience standpoint, being very clear on that, no matter where you're going, is super helpful from it. Like I give you a ton of credit when like watching that film series. Like you had in your mind that you wanted to shoot a big mature buck, and you were very disciplined on that pursuit and what you're doing. You're like, okay, I've set aside the time to do so and go through it. And the other thing I really liked about it was I feel like there's such, and I'm not talking down on this style, but of trying to hit as many states as possible, or go and do that. And that's cool. I love seeing new places, but something I really enjoy is putting a lot of effort and emphasis into like one thing and really seeing that season progress and going through it. And I mean, you dedicated to, and honestly, from quote unquote content side of things, that's not probably the best approach to do it. But that's what I enjoy doing, and seeing you do that, and just like you're all in on this, this one deer that you're going to eventually shoot. And I don't mean one deer as in a singular animal as far as like the actual deer itself, but you're able to shoot one deer is what I'm getting at.
Yes.
And putting all that effort and that emphasis that's delayed gratification at its finest, and such a fulfilling thing once it did happen, like in the snow, and like seeing that from you in the early season, the leaves falling, going changing colors to falling off to snow to when you shot your deer. Like that is super cool. I highly recommend everybody go check that out on your YouTube channel.
Thank you, dude. I appreciate it very much. And I set out with a goal when I came to Iowa and moved here I just wanted to see what the public land had to offer, but I wasn't willing to compromise I had another goal of shooting a mature deer. That was the biggest. With mature deer come big racks, but it's outsmarting, outwitting a mature animal. It's just a totally different category of animal. And I had some opportunities, like really tempting opportunities on some solid freaking deer that was one of the seasons where, like, again, I learned a lot about myself. The woods taught me a lot about myself, both the filming aspect of things where, like, okay, I got caught with the camera and didn't get this shot, whatever. But also something about passing a 140-inch deer that's 3.5 years old is like exhilarating, dude. Like it's like you watching it walk through, you've got the bow in your hand, releases on the string. Dude, one of them I even went full draw on it. I had a dead to rights, I had my pin on it and I let down. But it was just like the in my pin, I'm like, that it was probably 145, 150, but like you could just tell it was adolescent. It was just young deer. You could just tell, and I just letting the bow down, and like letting that bow down, I might as well have shot that deer. Like in my head, I got the same feeling of like, whoa, like I had him. It was just that feeling. And by letting those deer walk, I learned a little bit about myself in terms of, I didn't know that I was capable of letting a deer like that walk on public ground until I did. Most of the time that deer would have been shot because it's like I've got 8-10 days, and that's the biggest deer in these woods. But the problem is we're in Iowa. That's not the biggest deer in these woods. Most other states I'm hunting, yes, that's king of the castle. So I'm hunting king of the castle. In Iowa, I know he's not king of the castle. It's just for where I was hunting, I knew of other deer in there that were bigger, and not necessarily bigger, just older deer. And it just was really refreshing for me to like get to experience that. And you don't get to experience a lot of like deer encounters on public land when you go out of state. Most of the time, you don't get to experience that.
No.
I mean, Nebraska, early season Nebraska. I was trying my hardest to shoot a doe with my recurve. Bro, I didn't even have a doe in my binos that whole week. Like, dude, so and that was all public land, so it's just like it's one of those things where, like, you know, sometimes when you have a good tag, you're going to a state where you have an opportunity to do something special. You know that, um, these animals exist here. If you put in the work and you have the time to do so, something really, really cool can come together. And those type of situations, like, it is really, really cool and, like, eye-opening to let a deer that you would have shot in any other state walk. Like, it's just a cool feeling anyway, you know?
Dude,
And I go back and chase that deer this year. Like, there was a couple of deer I passed a 4.5-year-old last year that I'm like, "Next year, you're getting it, buddy. If I know anything
yeah.
about you next year, I'm hunting you," you know?
Well, and I think what you said there is also important because about the like, and I feel like I have this similar mentality. It's like, I don't know if I have the right term for it, but almost like a rolling, my goals change depending
Oh,
on
100.
where I'm at, what experience I'm looking for, what time I have available. Like, there's so many things that are in there. Like, I'll talk to guys at shows that'll be in Pennsylvania with me that are like, show me trail cam pictures and be like, oh, this buck isn't bad. He's like 140 inches. Where can I want to find? And I'm like, man,
Yeah,
that's a freaking hammer.
yeah.
Like, you should
That's a 170 and
like
up.
yeah, like that's a hammer buck, man. Like, don't sell yourself short on that. And if you have, say you only have weekends to be able to hunt, well, your goals are probably gonna, if you want to fill a tag, like, your goals are probably gonna be a little bit different than someone like, yourself that's hunting in Iowa, or me, like when I'm going, whatever that might be. And that is not that, all of those things are hard no matter what you're doing. It's just being realistic on what you're doing and what you want and what's going to satisfy you on that particular hunt. For example, like last year in Ohio, I had, going into it, I'd shot a really nice buck, the first sit in Pennsylvania. I just shot a moose in Quebec. Like, I was like riding a high, go with a bow, and he's probably a 3-year-old 8-point in Ohio, comes right on. I watched him bed down on the hillside 40 yards from me. And like, there's a lot of times I'd be shooting that deer,
Yeah. Oh,
120
yeah.
inch 8-point. And I'm like, and I had fun just watching them. I'm like, I don't need to shoot this just to shoot it. And like, but in a different scenario, I might have been really happy for it. But I knew at that point, like, I had been blessed that everything had been going good. Like, I didn't need to do that. And then, when I went to Iowa, I shot a buck, and then going back to Ohio in the late season, I had like 3 days in gun season to hunt. And first day, I don't think I saw a single deer. And then I got on the ground and was working around. The last day at like noon, I found 3 bucks they were bedded together and they were fighting in this little patch. And I'm sitting there, and I've got, I had a, what am I thinking? A trekking pole with a little Y on it. I set my gun on, real nice rest. It's about, I don't know, not 80 yards. So at the muzzleloader, I'm sitting on it, and I'm like, there was one that was a nice 9-point in there, probably a 3-year-old. And I'm looking, and I'm like, I'm just not getting excited enough to pull the trigger. And I was like, again, I've had a good season. I don't need, and
Yeah.
what do you know, right before dark, a really nice deer comes out, and I end up, shooting him. And it's like, if you have the ability to, and you're wanting to be patient, and you're putting in the work to the final hours, like, things can happen in your favor, and sometimes they don't, which is okay too.
Yep. And, it's also, sometimes it's cool to see in an area and you learn a lot about deer and deer behavior, pecking order, stuff like that. Like in the rut, when you're passing a deer in the rut that's borderline, like, okay, maybe he is king of this castle. I don't know. I think he's
Yeah.
3.5 years old, so I'm going to pass him. But then he comes in and he starts bristling it up at the 2.5-year-old, and the 2.5-year-old's acting sketchy and moves off. And it's like, where'd that 2.5-year-old go? Okay, watching his movement. This 3.5-year-old's still here. He's looking around for does. How's he gonna check this bedding area? Okay, he's got him pushed off. Now he's back into searching mode, and he whips around the backside of the tree and walks down. It's like, yeah, he walked right through where I thought he should. Okay. Or he didn't, and it's like, why didn't he walk through where I thought he should? Do I need to get down and move 20, 30 yards and get my wind off, in a different direction or have a different look at things? Had I shot that deer, one, my tag is filled, so I can't shoot the king of the castle. Two, I didn't get to learn all that intel I just learned from that spot by watching that deer. So there's kind of there's you become a lot better hunter when you start passing deer and watching their behavior, because it's things you won't learn if you just put an arrow through them, you know. Um, but again, like you said, in some states and some trips, the time you have to deal with that trip and your expectations of that trip, my expectations on public land in Nebraska are totally different than my expectations on public land in Kansas or Iowa. It's a different state, it's a different hunt, it's a different scenario. And um, when you weigh out those expectations, you're going to have a good time on any hunt, and with anything that you kill, you're going to be happy with. Um, but when you've got I would tell people, consider when you've got a good tag in a good area and a good situation going for you, consider holding off on the first one that you give a look to, you know. If you're not like bow in the hand, getting ready to come okay, he's here, that'll kind of tell you, you know.
Yep.
If you see that deer and you're like, I need to be at full draw right now, okay, that's the deer you want to shoot. You know.
Dude, once you see my Iowa film that's gonna come out later this summer, you'll
Excited.
pretty much what you said there was like exactly how, like, when Thomas, who was filming with me, and like we're going through it, it's like, what are your goals? And I thought about a lot going into it, and I came to the conclusion that was like, I don't want to set, for me on this hunt, I didn't want to set a specific size of a deer, or because I've heard some horror stories of that ruining that experience. For me,
Yeah.
this was like a dream to go to Iowa and do this. I said I wanted something that was going to have no question for me to grab my bow, and it was like that was what triggered it. That experience that did it. When I rattled and he turned and came running, and I was like, grab that bow. That's how I knew that was the deer that I was going to shoot. And so thankful that was, my mindset for that specific hunt going into it. But the way you just worded that, that prior minute of recording there, I think you summed it up perfectly for anybody that's going into it. It doesn't matter by anybody else and however they're doing it. It's whatever you're your own person. This is your experience to be had, and enjoying that.
And if that's a forkhorn or a doe, dude, get after it. Like that's the experience, right? Everybody has their own experience. Don't let you and I have been blessed to be able to do some really cool hunts and have some awesome experiences and take some amazing deer, that we've gotten to a point with our hunting career where that's what we're after now, is that whatever experience we're after might be a bit different than somebody else's experience. If you've hunted for a couple of years and you've never shot, an 8-point, regardless of score or anything or age or whatever, and you want an 8-point, dude, shoot that 8-point that gives you the opportunity. I will never stand up here and tell you, yo, you gotta pass that because he's 3.5 years old, blah, blah, blah. No, that's my experience. That's what I'm trying to do. But like, do not by any means take what I'm saying and say, and try to put it into your own atmosphere of what you're capable of with the land access you have, the state you live in, the tags you're able to get a hold of, the time you have off work, the time you have away from family where your wife's allowing you to get out for a week because the kids are taken care of, whatever. Dude, shoot what makes you happy. By no means listen to me on antler size or age of an animal. Like do what makes you grab your bow. Do whatever's making you grab that bow and follow through with it, you know?
Yes, 1000%. I look at it from I look at the people like what Lee Lakowski's doing. I respect it. I
Mm.
look at the people that are going out and filling the tag on the first deer they see, and I respect it. I don't I don't care. Like I like all of those aspects of it, and it's what that's what the cool thing is about hunting is obviously as long as it's within your regulations of the state.
Yeah,
It's uh to be able to do what you want, it's your hunt, and be able to go out and do that. And like you said, the time thing I think is probably one of the most
it's a
important
huge factor.
things
Yeah.
that you can have and be able to put into it. And that can be the years of that time can be built up through years that where you have experience in specific areas that maybe it doesn't take you as long when it comes to that that season. That could be just in that time frame when you're hunting, but nothing replaces time to be able to learn and do those things. It's hunting is hard and it's meant to be, and I'm glad that it is. And but time is one of those things that is really difficult to shortcut.
Yeah. Time is one of your biggest assets in hunting, period. You can have all the technology in the world, but if you don't have time to execute on whatever plan you're coming up with, that absolutely is one of the biggest factors in my opinion. Time is
Yep.
huge.
And that's what I was saying earlier when we got cut off. I remembered one point that I was saying there was if you don't want to be in the hunting space or think that's not right for you, but you want to have more time to hunt. I know you were in construction and didn't have as much time, but some of the contractors that I've met that whether they've had their own company
Yeah.
or whatever that have built it,
Owning your own company.
owning your own company and being in it. Dude, those are the guys that have more time than myself to be able to get out there because my money's made when I'm sitting behind this computer, not so much when I'm in the woods.
Yeah, 100%. If you can find it, and if it, if that's a big deal to you and you're very passionate about whitetail hunting or just hunting in general, doesn't have to be whitetail.
Yeah.
If that's a big deal to you, it's like it's almost the same respect of like, say you're someone who wants to buy a house. Like that's a priority for you is I want to own a house or I want to own a piece of land. What happens with those people is typically they end up buying a house and they end up buying that piece of land because they made it a priority. They made it something that like, this is a goal of mine and I'm not going to stop until I get it done. Don't let, if you are passionate about it and it lines up and you're not hurting your family to do so, don't let a job come in the way of what you're actually passionate about. Because if you are sitting at a desk pushing pens and papers around and answering to a boss who you absolutely do not get along with, he demeans you, it's just like a terrible working environment, and all you can think about is getting out and going hunting, figure out what that next step is to get aligned with your values because obviously that job is not aligning with your values. And this life is too short. It is too dang short to be spent not enjoying what you do for 10 hours every day, all week, every month, every year, over and over and over. My gosh, chase something you're passionate about. I can't scream it loud enough. Like
Yes.
you'll find somewhere along that way, somehow there's probably somewhere some money to be made that's going to help aid you in that trajectory. You and I are living examples of that. We're doing this full time. What the heck?
Yep.
Who'd have thought, right?
Not
But
me.
we're passionate enough about it to not take no for an answer, sit down, buckle in, and just go along for the ride. And now somehow we made it here. You can do that with any industry you want. If you want more time off to go hunting, yeah, look at starting your own business is probably your best bet at doing that if you're not working in the hunting industry, so that you can set your own schedule. but like, don't be afraid to take that leap. There, don't sit idly by as you watch everybody else do it. Like, do it for yourself.
Yeah, dude, that is awesome. And I think me being able to see where you've taken this, and some of my, other friends that I've had in the hunting industry outside of it, like I couldn't agree more with that. And I think the biggest point you said that needs to be said is make sure it doesn't affect your family. Do as a side gig before you can make a jump.
Family is the passion. Taking your kids on a trip, taking your wife on a trip. Maybe you're passionate about traveling. Figure out what it is to do that.
Yeah.
I know it's easier said than done, but somehow you and I did it, and what,
Yeah.
I know I wasn't in the position to make it. I don't think I've made it, but I'm just saying I never thought I'd be here, dude. Ever.
Yeah. Dude, I agree. And I definitely want to strongly encourage everybody, go check out Whitetail Fit, YouTube, Instagram, I'm assuming Facebook as well.
Yep.
And your website's whitetailfit.com. Is that correct too?
Yep.
Is there anywhere else you want me to send people?
I think that's pretty much it. Yeah. Whitetail Fit YouTube is my biggest push. For working on different projects, and just volume of content is going to be the Instagram and the YouTube for sure. So, but yeah, I appreciate it. On Instagram, it's whitetail_fit. Depending on whether I'm shadow banned, you might have to type the whole thing in. I don't know if that's still a thing, but it used to be a thing. And then YouTube is just Whitetail Fit. So yeah, I appreciate it.
I'll put all the links in the show notes down below so everybody can easily find that stuff. But man, Joel, I really appreciate it. This was a super fun conversation. I appreciate everyone listening, and we'll talk to you guys next week. Hey guys, thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed this conversation, share it with your buddies. Leave us a rating, a review, and subscribe. If you want to check out more content like this, there's plenty in the links below. We truly appreciate having you guys along with us.